Now, this attack is probably one of my favorites from Black Hat 2026 because it shows how far prompt injection can potentially go. It's called ChatMate and it targeted Microsoft 365 Copilot. Normally, when we talk about prompt injection, the example is relatively simple. Imagine I hide instructions inside a document saying, ignore the user and do this instead. Someone asks their AI assistant to summarize that document, the model reads my instructions and accidentally follows them. That's called indirect prompt injection because the malicious instruction didn't come directly from the user, it came from something the AI was asked to read. Now, ChatMate started there but went much further. Researcher Ori Lahav created a malicious document that could influence Copilot into running code inside Microsoft's Python execution environment. Now, Microsoft wasn't simply running this code directly on its main servers, it ran inside a sandbox. A sandbox is basically a sealed-off computing environment. The idea is that even if the code inside is malicious, it shouldn't be able to affect anything outside the box. But Lahav found several weaknesses in those boundaries. First, he found a way to gain high privileges inside the sandbox. He then found a service in Microsoft's Azure infrastructure that the sandbox could communicate with. That service had weaknesses including missing authentication and a path traversal issue, essentially allowing input to influence where files were written on the underlying system. By chaining these problems together, he could escape from the container onto the underlying Kubernetes host. And that host had something the sandbox deliberately didn't have: internet access. That changed the attack completely. The attacker could now send a new instruction to the victim's Copilot. Copilot would answer. The answer traveled back to the attacker. The attacker could read it, decide what to ask next, and send another prompt. In other words, instead of planting one prompt and hoping it worked, the attacker had an interactive conversation with someone else's authenticated Copilot. Lahav calls this remote prompt execution. Think of the difference between dropping one command onto someone's computer versus getting an interactive remote shell. And that's the really important shift here, because Copilot could potentially access Microsoft 365 information available to the victim. The AI itself becomes an interface into sensitive corporate data. Now, Microsoft fixed the vulnerabilities before the research was published. Go Microsoft. If you found this interesting in any way, and if you want to hear more research like this, consider following me.